If you clicked on this video, you either know me or you just really messed up your finger, which I'm sorry to hear about. But I wanted to hop on here and give y'all a quick little, well, it's probably not going to be quick, a little bit of a backstory and things that led up to me hurting my finger and the things I dealt with going through it. So on December 30th, I had an open fracture dislocation, meaning my skin split open, my bone dislocated in my right index finger, it came out of the skin, and I had a fracture on top of it to go with everything else. So let's rewind before we even get to that part. So leading up to that, I was having a lot of muscle twitches all over my body, just like random parts of my body would be twitching. This typically happened the most at night. Of course, I get on Reddit and start researching, and I see people talking about it. It's benign because a lot of people start freaking out about ALS symptoms, but apparently a lot of people deal with random muscle twitching right before I went to sleep. So when I was laying in bed before I'd go to sleep, it'd be like one night it'd be my left bicep, next night it'd be my right deltoid, my left quad. Like it would just be random twitches, and it was happening every day, every night for like, I don't know, 3 months. I was like, well, I guess this is just my life now. I guess I would just get used to the twitches. So I was dealing with that. I had two random instances where I almost passed out at the gym. Not really passed out, but like I would get lightheaded. Both were typically in between sets when I'd be looking down at my phone, and when I look up, I'd start getting like that spinning sensation where you just got off like a roller coaster or something like that. I didn't really think too much of it. I asked my doctor about it. She just said it sounds like you're dehydrated, which I drink copious amounts of caffeine, if you know me. So I was probably a little dehydrated, so I just chalked it up to that. I ended up getting a mole biopsy like right under my left pec. So I had a funky looking mole. Uh, I'd never been to a dermatologist before in my life. I went and got that cut out. Didn't really think too much of it. If you know me, I'm a pretty chill person. I don't worry about too much. I kind of go with the flow. I'm pretty even kill. So I didn't really think too much of it. But so on the side, I work as a substitute teacher. So typically my voicemail on my phone is just filled with the automated messages like, yo, do you want to accept this job? Press one, blah, 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 blah. So I'll end up having like 50 of those until my voicemail gets filled up, and then I'll go in and delete them. So if you call and leave me a voicemail, I might miss it until I check my voicemails. So I went through and deleted it, and I had a random number from Florida, and I was like, what is this? So I typed it in Google, and it pops up as a cancer research center in Florida. So I had just gotten this mole cut out to go sent off for testing. Haven't heard from my dermatologist in, I don't know, 2 months. And I get this call from this cancer place in Florida. So I'm a little freaked out about it. I get on the little patient portal thing, my report's on there. And I don't understand a lot of what's being said in the report, but I know what melanoma is. So I see that possible melanoma needs further testing. It's been sent off to California. It's getting sent off to all these like places to get tested and retested. And I'm like, oh, damn. That's not good. So I call my dermatologist the next day. She's like, we're still waiting on further testing. So in the back of my mind, I got this going on. I got the muscles twitching. I'm just trying to ignore everything and just keep pushing on. What else can you do? So it's around the holidays, so of course I eat a ton of food during the holidays, like everybody else. So of course I'm trying to burn a lot of calories. So anytime I get invited or there's an opportunity to play some basketball, I'm in. So we go. It's me, Teague, Bates, and Nick. We all go up to the high school. We're playing 2-on-2. Me and Bates is cooking. You know, we look like a prime Jokic Murray. We might be better than them because I shoot a little bit better than Jamal Murray. I think it's the second game. Bates flashes up to the elbow. I cut off of him. I have the ball running a pick and roll. They double me off the screen, so Bates is rolling to the basket. I have Teague in front of me. Teague's a big guy. Nick's trailing me. So I pick it up because I'm trying to get the ball to Bates. He has a wide open layup. Teague's in front of me. He's always been an active defender. He's got hands. Like he's always trying to get deflections, read passes, and get steals. So I fake a pass high. He jumps, of course. So I'm like, I got you. As he's in the air, so you fake high, go low. I fake a pass. He jumps. Now I'm trying to throw a bounce pass in between them. So I'm fake high over the top, coming in between like this. And when I make that, I throw the ball, a bounce pass in between. T kicks the ball because he's in the air. So he kicks the ball. I don't know if it was the ball, his foot, or a combination of the two. I still have no idea what exactly happened. Um, but something hit my finger, my right index finger, and it was not good. I instantly knew something was wrong. The best way I can describe it is if you've ever played Call of Duty or any of those FPS games, like when you get hit with a stun grenade or a flashbang where the screen kind of goes, that's what it reminded me of. I was like, oh damn. So I take off to the sideline. I look down and my skin's like mushy. I don't really know how to explain it. It looked mushy and I could see the bones sticking out the bottom. And I was like, okay. Um, I've always said, like, seeing one of my bones sticking out, it's always been like a huge fear of mine. I always said if that happened to me, I'd definitely black out. I'd pass out. Fortunately, adrenaline is a thing. Adrenaline kicked in. I run over to the sideline. I grab my hoodie. I wrap it around my finger. I'm like, yo, we got to go to the hospital right now. And I don't think they knew what happened because they all kind of looked at me like, what? I'm like, T, we got to go to the ER right now. My bone's sticking out, bro. He's like, what, are you serious? I'm like, my bone is out, bro. We got to go. So he drives me to the ER. We get to the ER. I walk in. So it's kind of weird to me because I'm like, my bone's sticking out. I'm freaking out a little bit. You walk up to the front desk and you're like, yo, I just had an injury. My bone's sticking out my finger. It's dislocated. And she's like, have you had any symptoms of COVID lately? What's your name? Date of birth? Like, just asking me all these questions like you would just normally checking in. And I'm like, for real? Like, y'all don't care that my bone's sticking out? Like, it's not a big deal to you? I mean, they see a lot of things. So if it's just a bone sticking out, I guess they don't really care that much. So I literally go sit in the waiting room. And fortunately, I was the only person in there, so it didn't take that long to get seen. So I get there, I'm laying in bed. Teague's there. I tell my sister and my brother what happened. My sister comes up to the hospital. I was only allowed to have one guest in, so then Teague left. Uh, so I'm in there with my sister. The doctor comes in. I got like the nurses coming in, looking at everybody wants to see my finger. I guess it's just a nurse doctor thing. I don't know. They all look at it like ooh basketball. You know, yeah. Um, so that happens. The guy comes in like they numb it up. He's like, "You want me to numb it?" I'm like, "Yes, please numb it before you do anything." He numbs up my hand. So he's trying to set the fingers, like get the bone back in place, and he's struggling, and he goes, give me a second. His joint's all mushy, and he walks out of the room. So like up until this point, I've been for what I've experienced, I feel like I've been pretty calm, and I'm just like, bro said mushy. My joint is mushy. So when he said that, I was like, oh, like this is a lot worse than I thought. Cause I decided they were gonna pop it in, give me some stitches, and I'll be good in like 2-3 weeks. But when he said mushy, like my brain just flooded with these ideas of just how bad it actually was, and like this is about to be a nightmare. I started shaking, like I got really cold and started shaking uncontrollably, like It got really bad. So my sister went out there. She's like, what do you mean by mushy? And he's like, that's not the right medical term. I shouldn't have said that. But he comes back in. He brings the X-ray machine in, and he's trying to get it back in. Eventually, he gets it set. Takes the X-ray of it. He's like, yeah, that's good. He like crudely wraps it, um, and he's sending me off to Kleiner and Coots in Louisville, which is one of the top hand specialists in the entire world. So I'm super thankful that they sent me there. So he just said it. So my skin's still open. So we drive to Louisville. We get there. We check in. Side story: the lady makes me pee in a cup when we get there. One of the top 10 hardest things I've ever done in my life. So I got my skin split open, bones hanging out. I'm in the bathroom trying to pee in a cup with my other hand, my left hand. I'm like, what is going on? They didn't use the pee, so I peed in this cup for no reason. They were just in case we need the pee, just go ahead and pee in this cup. I was like, okay. So we do that. They send me back to this room. Up, and I got more nurses from this hospital coming in and looking. They're all taking my bandage off, like, ooh, ah, yikes. You did this playing basketball? Like, y'all are not helping me at all. Like, y'all are freaking me out even more. And then finally, this doctor comes in. He's a younger, I think his last name is Lopez. Um, but he walked in and he had this like calming presence to him. Like he had a handle on the situation. He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna fix you up. I'm gonna take care of you. We'll get you good to go." And I was like, "Thank you. Finally, somebody calming me down." So we walk up to the surgery room. So I'm laying on my back on this table, and then they got a table to my right, and they got like this little curtain thing next to my head, so I can't see what he's doing. I don't really want to know what he's doing. But he's doing the surgery. But it was funny, the whole time he's doing the surgery, he keeps sighing. Like I don't know if he knew he was doing it. But like for example, I'm just laying there listening to him. I don't want to talk to him because I don't want to mess him up. Like I don't know if I'm gonna distract him, so I'm just laying there. I'm not saying a word. He's like, I'm like, like he keeps doing it over, and I'm like, oh shit! Like I don't know if things are going good on the other side of this curtain right now. Uh, but I'm just chilling. He said he's having a hard time because I guess the blood was making it hard. So he tried a finger tourniquet. That didn't really help. So he took that off. He asked if he could do a tourniquet on my arm. So he did it like around my wrist. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Do whatever you need to do, man. Just fix it. And so he tourniquets my hand for as long as he possibly can. He's like, let me know when it gets too painful. And eventually got to the point like where I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, yo, this is hurting. And then even after that, he waited like another 30 seconds to take the thing off. So that was super painful. He's telling me to flex my hand, like telling me to flex when I can't really feel anything. Like it's still numb, and he had just had that tourniquet on. And I'm like, I think I'm flexing it. And he's like, good, good, you're doing good. Told me like my ligaments and tendons weren't torn, so that was a good thing, super good thing. I what I did, I injured my volar plate, which apparently is a big deal. If you've never heard of a volar plate, I had no idea. I have my master's in exercise science. I had no idea what a finger or a volar plate was. Apparently, the fingers are very, very complex. He does all that. He stitches me up. I'm on my way out, and I told my sister, I was like, "This is the part I was excited for. Like ever since this thing happened, I was waiting for the part where I'm in a cast, I'm wrapped up, and I'm walking back to the car to head home. Like that's all I was thinking about the entire time I was laying on the table was being casted up, walking out of there, and going home. That's all I wanted to do. So like my sister's trying to be positive for me, which I greatly appreciate. She helped me so much. When I get home, something you should never do, I start Googling infections, finger injuries, just reading all these worst case scenarios. Like I was legit spending 10 hours a day Googling this stuff. Like I could have swore I had sepsis at least 17 times. Like I was convinced. Um, I got to the point where I was, what doom scrolling is on TikTok. I was doing that every night before bed, and TikTok's an algorithm, so everything I was looking up, um, medical stuff, medical traumas, infections, that's what my TikTok became. These very rare conditions or situations that happen were all I was seeing on TikTok. And I was looking at all this stuff before bed, which sleep I wasn't really getting. I wasn't getting much sleep. It's hard to sleep in a cast with all the trauma. And I'm not, I have trouble sleeping as is. So when I left the hospital, the doctor was very adamant, like, call tomorrow to schedule your PT. Because when you dislocate a joint, especially in the fingers, they want you moving it ASAP because it'll stiffen up really quick. So they want you moving it ASAP. So he told me to call the next day and get in as soon as possible to start PT. So I'm thinking, yeah, okay, the worst is over. I'm going to start PT. It's going to be a little painful, but I'll be good. So I call and they're like, of course, we can get you in. He told me to go in a week, like 7 days. You should be starting PT. Like let the stitches heal, and then you're moving the finger. So I call and they're like, we can get you in 3 days or 11 days. Okay. I didn't want to wait, so I just said 3 days. I'll be there in 3 days. Um, Fortunately, I went in 3 days because guess what? I go, they X-ray it again, and apparently I have a fracture on the top of my joint. So that ripped off that ligament too, and there's a fracture right here. They didn't know about that until I went this time. So with a fracture, you can't move the joint, or the fracture won't heal. And you're supposed to be moving the joint if you have a dislocation. So I'm in a very bad situation, and so the doctor I went to see, his name is Dr. Tuna. Tuna is his first name. I can't pronounce his last name, but he's like world renowned. He did the first double hand transplant in Louisville. Like, he's a legit doctor. He was very adamant about how bad my injury was, like just how bad of a situation I'm in, and that did not help. Um, I appreciate him being honest with me, but like a little bit of like, you'll get through this. No, he just kept saying how bad it was, and I was like, all right, bro. So when they first did the surgery, my finger was casted. You see it? It was kind of like bent like this. Hold up. It was kind of bent like this, and it was attached to this finger, which I'll post pictures of cast. So it was bent, but they didn't know I had the fracture on the top. And so he grabbed my finger. So he takes the cast off. He grabs my finger. It's been stuck in this position for 3 days. He grabs it. I have stitches all through here. See that? So I have tattoos on my ribs. I have tattoos on my elbow. Um, so that was pretty painful. What he did to my finger was by far the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. No numbing, nothing. He just grabbed it, straightened it. It felt like everything in my finger ripped in half. The stitches kind of ripped open. I had blood coming out, which he said the reason he did it. Well, he explained it after he did it. He didn't warn me at all. He said he would rather my finger be stuck in this position than this position. He's like, extension is being stuck in extension is better than flexion. So I'm like, stuck. So like when he says that to me, in my mind, my finger's just gonna be stuck like that for the rest of my life. Like no more basketball, no more baseball, softball. Which I'm a pretty active person. I play sports, I lift all the time. And he tells me my finger's gonna be stuck. He keeps telling me how bad this injury is. I'm not in a good headspace. And so on the way home, my sister took me to see Dr. Tuna. She's driving me back. We don't really say much. I don't think she really knows what to say to me because I'm feeling pretty like dejected. I feel pretty defeated. Um, so we get back. So like my finger's still hurting. I have pain. They didn't give me pain pills for any of this, but I had some pain pills left over from I had shoulder surgery. I had some old pain. This is like, when was my shoulder surgery? I don't know. It was a long time ago, like at least 8, 9 years ago. And I have pain pills from there. I don't know if pain pills go bad, but I was using the pain pills from that for my finger. And that night, I started getting that shaky feeling, like, and then I felt like I was gonna pass out. So like I'm legit. I'm sitting right here in my room. I yell at my brother. It's like, I don't know, 10:30. He's about to go to bed for work. I'm like, "Yo, Dylan, I'm about to pass out." He's like, "What?" Like I'm about to black out, and I start shaking again. I get really cold and I start shaking again. I'm just sitting in my room. My fingers like throbbing. I'm shaking. He comes in there, stands, and he's just looking at me, and like that was like one of the lowest points of this whole thing. Is like I've spent my whole life being the big brother, and I'm sitting here like feeling like I'm gonna pass out. Like I feel so hopeless and just a crappy feeling. You got your little brother standing over you, and I don't know. Anyway, so they had me on some high antibiotics because I had an open injury. Anytime the skin gets broken, you get on antibiotics. So they had me on cephalexin, 500 milligrams for 7 days, and I had to take it every 4 hours. So like I said, I wasn't getting very good sleep. I'm not a good sleeper to start with. The occasional nights I did sleep, I had to wake up 4 hours after I was asleep to take my antibiotics. I had my alarm set every 4 hours to go off, so I would take my antibiotics. I stayed on top of that. Towards the last 2 days, so I was on it for 7 days. The last 2 days, I got very gloomy, like feeling depressed. Like I couldn't fake a smile. I had like no emotions in my body. It was very weird. I felt very weak, very lethargic. It got to the point where I couldn't eat. I was eating 400, 500 calories a day. Certain foods that I really enjoy, I couldn't eat. It was making me feel nauseous, like I was going to throw up just taking one bite. So again, I started researching all this stuff, like what do you do for these injuries? What do you do if you're taking high antibiotics? So I was drinking bone broth every day. I was drinking collagen to heal the fracture, help the fracture. I was drinking kefir. I've never drank kefir in my entire life, but apparently it's good for your gut health. So I was drinking kefir. I was taking glucosamine, um, magnesium, of course my multivitamin every day, vitamin C. Like like I was trying to put everything in my body that would help it heal. So on my birthday, January 6th. So this happened December 30th. I don't know if I said that. December 30th is when the injury happened, the surgery happened. December 6th is my birthday. But we end up having an AAU tournament we're hosting, so I have to be at a school, like overseeing this AAU tournament, just watching the games, making sure our players are there to run the clock and do the books. I don't really have an appetite. Still, I can't eat. Um, so we had the AAU tournament. I'd finished the antibiotics that day, so that was the seventh day. After I finished, my appetite came back a little bit. I went and got Chipotle. My sister got me Chipotle for my birthday. I was able to eat like half of it, half of a bowl. My mood lifted a little bit. I didn't feel so down and out. Like I wasn't super sad. The next day, I go out to my dad's for my birthday, and I start getting like I'm standing up talking to him, and I start getting this like feeling like I'm gonna pass out again. I get dizzy. It feels like I'm gonna black out. If I'm standing in one spot and talking, I feel like I'm gonna black out. I don't know why. Um, so like I would randomly be talking to people, and then I just have to stop talking. I don't know if anybody ever noticed it, but I would just stop talking and just stand there. So I went over and sat down. I got back on my phone, just reading stuff on Reddit, I guess. And then all of a sudden, everything on my phone kind of got hard to read, and like the TV got weird to look at. The best way I can describe this was it's like when you're looking at something, but you're thinking about something, like you're in deep thought, so you're not really paying attention to that object you're looking at. That's what happened to my eyes, my vision, my head, my whatever you want it, whatever it is. That's what happened to me 24/7 after that. From the time I woke up to went to sleep, I couldn't focus on anything. Like text on a screen was hard to read. It was super weird. Of course, I find people that are saying they've experienced the same thing and they were going through it. They're going through it for on 5 years now, 10 years now, 20 years. I'm like, bro, no. Like the way I felt, if you would have asked me to pick between how I felt, like what I was going through mentally, either pick that or keep your finger, chop my finger off. That's how much I hated how I was feeling. It was so bad. So I had no energy. I couldn't really do anything. During this time, I stopped working out. Um, I stopped moving, which was probably a huge red flag. I should have kept moving, going for walks, stuff like that. But I ended up just not moving and researching stuff. And I think my anxiety kind of took over because every little thing I was doing was freaking me out. Like this whole situation had me freaked out. Plus, on top of the muscle spasms, the twitching, the mole, the melanoma stuff, everything I think kind of accumulated and it all built up and created this perfect storm that kind of just messed me up mentally. Like I had no energy. Like I could drink 200, 300 milligrams of caffeine and it would do nothing to me. I still couldn't focus. It gave me no energy. Nothing was happening. It was like my brain decided, like, yo, my central nervous system, you've been through too much. You're not coping very well. We're just going to shut you down. We're going to dial everything back. Um, and it sucked, man. It really sucked. Then on top of all this, I just recently found mold in my kitchen, right? So we had a shower leak, what, 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Water was getting in behind the shower and coming down through the flooring. So our shower is right over our kitchen, upstairs, downstairs. So we got all the shower replaced, but they never replaced the wood or the ceiling right underneath, right? So apparently that had a lot of mold on it. Come to find out, I got it tested. I sent it off. It came back as two. It was two out of the three most toxic black molds you can have. I don't know what the validity is for toxic black mold. A lot of people say it's just scare tactics. It's not really a thing, but I don't know. I'm assuming breathing it in wasn't helping anything. So that was on top of everything. So basically, I was walking around. I felt like a zombie, like a literal zombie. The only thing, for some reason, I was like, "Yo, you gotta start working out again." So I was going to the Y. I was walking. When I was walking, like if I was on the treadmill and I tried to talk to somebody, I feel like I was gonna black out again. Like I'd get dizzy. If I was lifting, I'd get dizzy. The only I randomly, for the first time, I've never done this before in my life, but I've seen people do it in movies. I took a bunch of cold water and splashed it on my face before I was going to go to the gym one day. And that woke me up. It was very weird. It lasted, I don't know, 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes, I felt alive again. I was like, yo, might be onto something here. Um, so during that, I was trying to do cold water. I hate cold water, but when I would take a shower, after I'd clean myself, I would turn the water on freezing cold and then walk into it for as long as I could. Wasn't very long because, like I said, I hate cold water. You're never going to see me doing a cold plunge. I don't care how good people say it is for you. I'm not doing it. That would wake me up for 30 minutes where I'd feel normal. So all this is going on. I'm still coaching. Basketball's still going on. We're in the middle of our season. Like our biggest games are coming up during all this. South Oldham game comes up. We're at South Oldham. The gym's packed. I think it was the second time out of the game. I stand up I almost go out. So it was a full timeout, so everyone's up, so the players can sit. I stood up, almost blacked out. I immediately had to sit back down. Like I couldn't get up during the timeout. And so that entire game, I'm just like focusing on my breathing. Like that's how scared I was of passing out because I didn't want to pass out with a gym full of people and everyone looking at me and being like, so like now at this point, it's taken away something I really love, which is coaching basketball. I can't coach. Like in my current headspace, I cannot coach. I can't coach because if I talk too long, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So I go to my primary care doctor. She ends up giving me hydroxyzine. It's supposed to help me sleep. I took that. I took that for one night. Didn't help me sleep at all. I don't even think I got any sleep. So like say the first week after my injury, I think I probably slept 3 out of the first 7 nights. And then the couple of nights I did get a little bit of sleep, I was waking up to take my antibiotics. So on top of everything, I'm not getting sleep, and sleep is so important to your recovery. But my primary care doctor, she's telling me like, I think it's anxiety that's kind of messing you up, and I would consider myself a pretty resilient person. I've been through a lot. Um, so when she said anxiety, I'm just kind of like, I don't think this finger is causing me anxiety, but there's nothing really like the hydroxyzine did nothing. Nothing's going on. So after a couple of days, I go back and I'm like, it might be anxiety. I, Maybe it's something I've just never experienced. It's never gotten this bad. So I go to the doctor again. She gives me a different medicine, um, buspirone. I don't know how you pronounce it. But I told her I wanted something I can take when I'm experiencing these symptoms. I don't want something I have to rely on and take every day. Like I don't want to go down that path. But if you have anything that I can just take when I'm experiencing something, I'll take that. I'll try it. So that's what she ended up giving me. I wanted to test it, so we ended up getting we ended up playing our the other rival, North Oldham, our other huge game of the year, another sold out game. So I take the medicine before the game just to see because I'd taken like half doses throughout the or when I first wake up and I couldn't really tell if it was doing anything. Um, but I take it before the North Oldham game, and I have my Apple Watch on. I set a workout just because I wanted to see what my heart rate was doing during the game. My heart rate didn't go over 105 the entire game. So this is like our second biggest game of the year. It's sold out, and my heart rate's not elevating. Like I'm just staying calm the entire game. And I'm like, damn, okay, this stuff does work. When I went to the hospital, I weighed in and I was 160 pounds. So I typically walk around at 185. When I cut down, I can get down to like, I don't know, 170, 165. But the thing about it is, I wasn't trying to lose weight. So I was like 185, 190 before the injury, and then I wasn't trying to lose weight, and then I weigh in at 160, and I'm like, of course, that's one of the things if you Google is if you lose a lot of weight quickly without trying, that's a red flag. That's a bad sign. So of course I'm like, okay, add that on top of everything else that's freaking me out, which is crazy. It was just from not lifting. I didn't lift for a month, and I lost that much weight. It was it's kind of jarring. I've recently, since I started lifting again, I gained all that weight back. It was crazy how it happened. So fast forward January 31st, I go meet with Dr. Tuna again. He removes my bandages. So the whole time I was in my new splint, I kept getting this sharp pain on my knuckle, like right on top. In my mind, oh, it's the bone healing. That's what that feeling is. No, I developed a bed sore on my knuckle, which apparently, after further research and Googling, that's a common thing for finger injuries that are splinted, which, of course, no one told me. No doctor told me that. So I see this bed sore on my finger. It smells weird. It smells like a pimple, kind of. Not like, so like an. So, of course, I smell it and I'm like, yeah, it's infected. Here comes sepsis number 18. We're going through it again. But he looks at it. He literally just looks at it. He's like, hey, it's healed. He doesn't x-ray it, doesn't examine it really, doesn't touch it. Just takes it off, tells me to wash it in the sink, and then says it's healed. And I'm like, okay. Says to start PT ASAP because you want to get it moving like we were supposed to do before we found out the fracture. So they want you moving your joint ASAP after a dislocation. But since I had a fracture, I couldn't move it. I think I was splinted for 4.5 weeks. So there was no movement. When he took it off, said it was healed, he told me about 4 weeks of PT and you'll be good to go. You'll be back to normal everyday activities. And in my head, I'm like, whew, okay, we're almost there. 4 weeks. I can do 4 more weeks. Ooh. So I'm still splinted until I go to PT. I got a splint on my finger, but I'm allowed to take it off to shower, which was one of the greatest things I'd ever heard in my life. When I was shower, I had to wrap a grocery bag around my hand and tape it every time I wanted to take a shower. It was just a pain. So when he told me I can shower without my splint on, I was, yo, that's the first good news I've heard in a very long time. So I was super happy and excited about that. So during this time, probably was detrimental and helped feed my anxiety. I was taking my temperature, my blood pressure, my blood oxygen levels. I was doing this 10 times a day. From the moment I woke up before I went to sleep, I was testing all this stuff just to make sure I was healthy and I wasn't dying. I went and got an A1C test, which tests your blood sugar for possible diabetes, because I was trying to figure out why I kept feeling like I was going to pass out. So I did that. The urine analysis test, I bought one of those, tried that out. It was frustrating because everything kept coming back normal. Like when you're going through this stuff, you want something to be wrong with you. If that makes sense. Because then once you figure out what's wrong with you, you can address it. You can start taking steps to fix it. But everything kept coming back normal to me, which was very frustrating. So I even got a heart monitor put on. I had to wear a heart monitor for 7 days because I kept feeling like I was going to pass out. So they wanted to check my heart just to make sure nothing was wrong with my heart. So I'm super active and I'm over here wearing a heart monitor because I don't know, there might be something wrong with it. That comes back fine too. So all that's fine. I pay out of pocket to go get a blood test done just to check my blood work. Just hoping there's a marker or something that tells me, yo, this is below or above average. You should get this checked out. Maybe this could be possibly what's wrong with you. It all comes back completely normal. Which should be, like I said, it should be make you feel good that everything's normal, but it was so frustrating to me that I couldn't figure out why I kept feeling dizzy, why I couldn't feel like myself. I just didn't understand. But I really believe the Buspirone, whatever you want to call it, the anxiety medication really helped me. And I only took it for, I say 4 days, maybe 5. But I think what it allowed me to do was just calm my nervous system down, calm my brain down, and actually get some good sleep to allow my body and brain and everything to actually recover for once. So I do think the anxiety medication really helped, and I only took it for 4 or 5 days. So I finally get into PT, February 5th. I get paired with this lady named Melissa. Real quick, just shout out to all the physical therapists, occupational therapists. Y'all are a very bright spot in this world for people that really, really need you. The whole time she kept radiating this positive energy, which, trust me, I was like a kid with a black cloud just following him everywhere. Like people, it got to the point where people could feel like I've always been able to kind of like mask things that are going wrong. Like you would never know there's something wrong with me. But it got to the point where I was just so emotionally drained. I couldn't hide it anymore. Like I was going to games and practices and my players were like, "Yo, you good?" like, what's wrong with you? Like, something's wrong with Trav. He's not acting like he usually does. Like, I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't fake a smile. It was really weird. Starting PT was a huge positive thing for me. So at first I could barely move my finger, and I told Melissa, I was like, yo, Dr. Tuna said 4 weeks with you PT and I'll be good to go. And she saw how little I could move my finger. She goes, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit longer than 4 weeks. I was like, damn, okay. All right, here we go. But at this point, we had PT. Like I was starting to recover, and like having a plan in place and starting the process of recovery. Like this is familiar territory to me. Like this is one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video and talk about it, because I couldn't find anyone that had my type of injury on YouTube or the internet. Like it's had to happen before, but apparently it's kind of rare for what exactly I had happen, and I couldn't find anybody that had experienced what I'd went through. And so like kind of going through that unknown really, I think, really messed with me, because like I said, I'm a resilient person. I've been through a lot growing up, but I've always had, like, I have brothers and sisters to fall back on, because like they're right there with me experiencing the same thing, so I don't feel alone in any battle I've ever faced. But with his finger, I was kind of like, damn, I don't know who to ask, who to talk to about this. And so I was just in my head, and I think it made it so much worse. But when I started PT, it really helped. So this last time I went, I asked her if I could actually take a picture of my measurements and my progress as it started and where I'm at now. So when I first got there, I had 26 degrees of flexion. So like, I don't know if you can see it. I could bend my finger to about here. That's all I could bend it. So, and I'm in a Capner brace. I'll post a picture of the Capner brace. But I was wearing that. I had to wear that all day, except for when I went to sleep. I could take it off when I showered, and I had to splint my finger when I was asleep, splint it straight. But all day I was wearing this Capner brace. So I was doing exercises every day. And so at first I'm at 26 degrees, right? So the next week I come in, I'm going once a week. The following week I come in, I'm at 39 degrees. So a 13-degree jump. So now I'm like, I don't know, here. So we get to that point, and in my mind, I'm like, all right, 13 degrees. We're gonna keep adding like 13, 15 degrees. I'll be good to go here soon. Come the third week, I go from 26 to 39. Third week, I'm at 44. So I jumped a huge 5 degrees. But in my head, the entire week, it feels like it's not moving at all. Like it's not getting better. And so, of course, all the negativity, all the negative thoughts come flooding in. Like, this is it. This is all the range of motion you're going to get. Like, your finger's stuck like this. You're never going to play basketball again. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going through all this, of course. Like, I personally didn't think my finger had moved more than it did the previous week. But we go in. She measures it. She's like, hey, you added 5 degrees. I'm like, really? Because I honestly didn't think it moved or got any better. But that's why they measure. She kept reminding me, like, a little progress is better than no progress. And I just kept like, okay, like that kept me going. As a trainer, I should know this. Like, I help people with personal training. Like, results are slow. It's never just a constant. You go up and down, like peaks and valleys. I should have known this, but like when it's me and my finger, I just felt like I was putting all this work. It should keep going. I should keep getting better. But 5 degrees is 5 degrees. I'll take it. So I kept doing my exercises. So we go from 26, 39 to 44. And then the fourth week, we jumped up 66. So we added 22 degrees. So like that was huge. Like mentally, that helped me so much. But see, as we go, I went from 26, 39, 44, 66, 72, 80, 85, and to the last one I went to on April 10th, I was at 88 degrees. So I can show you a little bit what it looks like. I don't know if you'll be able to tell from this camera. So I have a huge scar right here, goes to here, and then comes down. Like this is the mushy part of my skin I was looking at, and the bone was sticking out through here. So scar tissue is really bad for fingers because you don't have a lot of room. The scar tissue takes up room that the ligaments and tendons are trying to go through. So you want to avoid scar tissue if you can. Like they don't really want to do surgery to fingers if they don't have to, because the scar tissue can cause a lot of problems. But I'll show you a couple things I did to kind of help with my scar tissue. As I was progressing, I had one of these. So it's like I don't know exactly what it's made out of, but she would mold it and change the degrees each week, like to where our goal was. So like at first it was like way up here, where I was just trying to bend my finger to touch it, and then she'd keep gradually moving it down each week. So it got to the point where I was trying to get down and touch it, right? So I had one of those oval 8 splint. This one's big, but you can see how loose it is now. It used to be tight. That's how swollen my finger was. But I bought one of these off Amazon. So I was wearing this whenever I showered because I was scared to shower without having anything on my finger. So I'd wear this forever when I was showering. And I would sleep with this on too. Instead of using one of these, this is what I was splinting my finger with. So I'd put it on here, wrap tape around it. Instead, eventually I got to the point where I was just wearing this and using Coban wrap. So I would wrap my finger around this, and that's what I was using to sleep in. Coban wrap, I was putting this on every night to help with the swelling. So you start at the top of the finger, wrap it as you go down because you want the swelling to come down. Which swelling apparently is very hard to get rid of in a finger because you don't have any muscles in your finger. So swelling can take like literally up to a year to come all the way down. So I had those from PT. She gave me these little blue strips. They're kind of like sticky. It's like I could grab my skin a lot easier. So I was grabbing it and massaging my skin out. I think that helped a ton. I bought one of these off Amazon, a venom extractor. So what these are for, put this on. So what it'll do is it'll suction to your finger. So it'll suction. See it pulling the skin. So I was doing that all around the scar, trying to pull it up off the ligaments so they wouldn't stick to it. I think that helped a lot. I bought a bunch of these off Amazon. So they kind of rolled down the finger. Kind of feels nice, even though I don't need it anymore, but it's more of like a sensory thing. But what I was using it for is to push the swelling down. And this promotes a lot of blood flow to the finger. Like even if you're not injured and you do this a couple times, you will feel the blood come rushing into your finger, which is cool. Blood flow helps heal. So I had those. PT gave me a bunch of these. So with these, I was putting them in between my finger. This was more of like an extension exercise. So I would be squeezing them together and then doing like she called it a duck bill. And that helps strengthen the extenders in the finger. So as you can see, I can't really hyperextend my finger anymore. Like this one, that's as straight as I can get it right now. Like if I put it in the heating pad and kind of like move it and stretch it out, I can get a little bit better. But that's about as straight as I can get my finger now. And then flexion. Right now I'm about right here. I'm still working on it every day. It's like that's what it should be able to do. A normal finger. You should be able to tuck it all the way in. This one won't move. It's as far as I can get it right now. Like I said, I'm still doing my exercises every day. They told me when it happened, I'll probably never have full range of motion again in my finger. That's fine. I've already got back to lifting. I've gotten back to shooting a basketball, which I told my PT I'll probably cry the first time I ever get to shoot a basketball again. I did not cry, but I was a little emotional. But yeah, like this whole ordeal since the beginning of the year is kind of sucked. So if you're going through this, eventually you'll come out the other side. Like it sucks going through it. It's not gonna be easy. You're not gonna get full range of motion back, but you'll get enough to where it doesn't really affect you. But yeah, that's what happened to me. So what I have is a volar plate injury, an open fracture dislocation from basketball, from a freak play, a play I made 1,000 times. Even Dr. Tuna was asking me how I did it, and of course this is the double hand transplant surgeon. He's probably seen all kinds of crazy things. He kept asking me like, "How did it happen? You tried to throw a bounce pass and he kicked the ball?" He's like, "Well, that explains this part of the injury, but I don't know how you got this other part of the injury, like on the other side of the joint." I'm like, "I don't know, man." But it happened. It happened. It's over. I'm out the other end, out the other side. I'm still doing some physical therapy. I go back to PT next week, and I think that'll be my last ever session with her. But that was my finger injury. We're back like we never left. I'm gonna start giving out buckets here again soon. Stay tuned.